Israel's public perception is so that when the Nelk boys interview Benjamin Netanyahu, that act in and of itself is indicative of how far Israel has fallen. Why are you a goddamn with an ICC warrant out for your arrest, and you're going on the Nelk boys podcast? And not only that, but also when you go on the Nelk boys podcast, it doesn't actually offer you positive PR. It just ends up collapsing the PR for the Nelk boys. Because that's the reality here. Because like Nelk boys interview Benjamin Netanyahu, right? If you were to ask me ahead of time, if they were to ask me ahead of time, I would have told them not to do it. The interview itself got not even 1 million views in one day, which is a decent amount of views. In the middle of the interview with, again, Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, they end up doing like, gambling ads and things of that nature. It's all so dystopian. I know this is a word that we use quite frequently, but bro, dislikes at 120K. The dislike bot is not correct. It's just not, it's not correct. I don't know why you guys believe that shit. It's never correct. But this to me shows desperation from Israel. They have no allies with the exception of mainstream media, but even they realize that regardless of how many mainstream media attempts they make, they're still not going to be able to change the way people see Israel. It's over. It's done. It is a global pariah. And it's such a global pariah that sending Benjamin Netanyahu on the Full Send podcast with this idiotic assumption that, the Nelk Boys podcast is going to make a bunch of right-wingers look at Benjamin Netanyahu in a positive way is so stupid. It is a spectacularly stupid and spectacularly desperate attempt of trying to do propaganda. It's shocking how bad this situation is. Okay? And Ben Lorber also reported on this, said Haaretz reports Israel is training MAGA Gen Z influencers to combat growing criticism on the right. They're using Israel 365, a Christian-focused Hasbara outfit I wrote about recently for Jewish Currents. Watch this group. They're a crucial conduit between Israeli and the Christian right. Okay? But it's not going to work. It's not going to work because for the generational divide between the generational divide in terms of like how people perceive Israel is so severe that even the Christian right under a certain age group is entirely off the Israel train. Okay? And obviously, the Ryan Grimm even posted about this. It's so funny that I've had like a bunch of serious journalists reach out to me about the Nelk boys to be like, who are these guys? Like, why were they interviewing? Like, Ryan Grimm hit me up and was like, why are they interviewing Benjamin Netanyahu? Who are these guys? Which was really funny. But not the best post-game interview if you are the head of the Israeli state when you had this conversation with these guys and they had to play catch-up and they had to play defense and do crisis PR, as Adam Friedland called, immediately after this interview. It's so controversial that they literally had to turn around and be like, yo, we're kind of...
It's a good point. Someone said having Netanyahu on is like having modern-day Hitler.
No, I saw that.
Which is, honestly, guys, I'll be honest. I'm here to... It's a good point. We're here to learn, to be honest, guys.
Like, the reason why I'm not like as upset, I guess, as the rest of the internet is because maybe I'm so used to mainstream outlets doing unlimited PR for Israel over and over again that like when I see something like this, when I see an attempt from the Israeli state to try and do propaganda for the Israeli state by sending Benjamin Netanyahu, of all people, to the Nelk Boys podcast, I see that as a major self-own. And it's also yet another indication that not only have they fallen apart in terms of the PR, that their reputation is so bad that when you have a head of a state, like a head of a foreign state, if you were to just like remove the fact that he is a genocide dare, if you have this head of a state on a podcast and instead of people's reaction being like, oh dude, this is sick, their reaction is incredibly negative and it literally hurts the Nelk boys more than it helps Benjamin Netanyahu and more than it helps the Nelk boys. Like this interview is not going to be even remotely positive for Benjamin Netanyahu. And it's not positive even for the Nelk boys either. And if I were to put myself in their mindset for a second, okay, slamming happy dads and, you know, ripping lip pillows, upper D's, and doing crypto gambling or whatever, okay? And I've already interviewed Donald Trump multiple times. I've been on his plane, Air Force One, Trump Force One, and I've interviewed Elon Musk. Like, I've interviewed people that other people have considered villains. In my mind, I'm thinking, what's the difference? You know what I mean? What's the difference? I'm just looking for, I mean, there's like content to be made out of interviewing a foreign head of state. The only difference, however, is that while Trump is also a villain, and so is Elon Musk, what these guys don't understand is that the only thing Benjamin Netanyahu is famous for is doing at least Trump is like a TV guy. He's more telegenic. He's an American president. You're, you know, an American facing podcast, all this stuff. And so there's a greater defense for interviewing someone like Donald Trump, even though many people would consider that indefensible as well, especially given that they're very clearly ill-equipped to even call into question a bunch of stuff that Trump has done. Okay. Here's Nathan J. Robinson's take. The rise of the idiot interviews like Friedman, Rogan, Vaughn, and the Nelk boys very harmful to journalism. They somehow manage to be worse than mainstream media. They're walking PSAs for the importance of reading books. The problem is that because they have refused to study the issues closely, they don't even know when they're being fed propaganda and therefore can't challenge it effectively. Result is their viewers get exposed to propaganda without hearing any counter arguments. Except I'm not in the same mindset as Nathan J. Robinson, because I don't think this is like as damaging to the discourse. I think the very fact that this interview took place is more newsworthy than any number of different things that this interview allowed Benjamin Netanyahu to do. Does that make sense to you? Do you understand what I'm talking about? No, he doesn't mean Adam Friedland. He means Lex Friedman. Like, it's like when the New York Times writes a story about Zohran Mamdani's like college application or something that from a college they didn't even get into, like Columbia, and they go in and they get like hacked material from a known white supremacist race scientist, right? The story and their coverage of it is not as impactful and is not like as anti-Zoran as the fact that they wrote that story and thought that this was a good story to publish. That becomes the story in and of itself. And it's kind of a similar thing here where, by my estimation, the very fact that the Israeli state thought it was a good idea to go on the Nelk Boys podcast to try and run PR for their ongoing active genocide because they recognize how much they've fallen out of favor overall is the bigger story here. The bigger story here is the desperation for the Israeli state and also the reception, the broad reception from the internet towards the Nelk boys, who obviously have been, even in right-wing circles, but like right-wing circles, left-wing circles, like obviously people have had their minds made on these guys to begin with, right? Especially when they were, promoting Donald Trump. But what's actually more interesting is that Benjamin Netanyahu is such a repulsive, toxic, cancerous individual in what he represents that even the right is attacking the Nelk boys now. Like, they're eating it from both ends. That, to me, is a bigger story than the fact that the Nelk boys even interviewed or what kind of propaganda Benjamin Netanyahu was able to do. Because like a lot of people here want me to like address that Benjamin Netanyahu said in this interview. I already know what statements he made in this interview. You want to know why I know these statements that he made in this interview? Because it's pure Hasbara. I've heard it a million times over all the way from my Twitter replies down to every single Israeli envoy that goes on mainstream media and defends Israel's actions. It's always the same. There's not a lot of leeway in what kind of propaganda you can do when you are just like actively committed to doing an ethnic cleansing campaign in broad daylight. ABC, NBC, CBS News ran token reports on Gaza starvation yesterday, and it had all the tropes. Hamas-run health ministry, centering Israeli denials, framing it as the unfortunate result of a new military offensive. Zero mention of open Israeli starvation and depopulation plans. It's important whenever news orgs telephoto shoots of thousands of clearly emaciated people scrambling for food and dozens of images of people being shot or dead, to mention the particulars is coming from the Hamas-run health ministry, so we can just ignore everything we're watching. Israeli leaders, including Netanyahu, openly talk about depopulating Gaza. They mock up AI videos showing what it would look like. Every single human rights org says it's textbook ethnic cleansing, yet the U.S. media continues to act like starvation is the unfortunate byproduct of a war. This is bullshit. And my point is, like, credible, reputable mainstream institutions unironically do a similar type of propaganda to what the Nelk boys did, but with Benjamin Netanyahu. Of course, they probably would be a little bit more contentious with Netanyahu than the Nelk boys were capable of being. What I mean by this, of course, is that they would at least have, like, to lend some credibility to themselves by asking, like, a couple questions or maybe a couple follow-ups to Benjamin Netanyahu. But as someone who has watched a lot of Benjamin Netanyahu interviews, and let me tell you, okay, it wouldn't be all that different from the Nelk boys. Like, sure, they wouldn't ask them about, like, whether he prefers Burger King or McDonald's or whatever. I will also make one more statement about how many of these, like, both sides morons out there have been trying to actively use my commentary against the Nelk boys on this process to say, oh, says you would ask Benjamin Netanyahu if he watches One Piece. No, I wouldn't. You want to know why I wouldn't? Because, as I've said before, one, I didn't even interview a member of Ansar Allah. I interviewed a random Yemeni teenager who I thought was a part of the Ansar Allah movement. But even if he was a part of the Ansar Allah movement, I would have had a more positive interview with him than I would with Benjamin Netanyahu. Because Benjamin Netanyahu is a genocidaire. Ansar Allah, on the other hand, is responding to the genocide that Israel is committing against the Palestinian population. You know, I don't do this, like, weird neutralization, this weird moralizing. I don't do this, like, cowardly, both sides are actually kind of bad. No, there is no both sides in a genocide. The responsible party here is obviously the Israeli prime minister. If you can't hold Benjamin Netanyahu to a different standard, it's like we go back to the same, like, Nazi denialism of, like, who's actually a real Nazi? Is Adolf Hitler a real Nazi? If you can't even point the finger of blame at Adolf Hitler for the crime of the Holocaust, then who are you supposed to point it to? There is no both sides. So it's very strange when people try to do that, where they're like, well, Hasan, you interviewed a 19-year-old Yemeni teenager who's only known famine his whole life. Isn't that, and you asked him, like, silly-ass humanizing questions. Isn't that the same as, like, humanizing Benjamin Netanyahu? If you think that a random Yemeni teenager or even the head of the Ansar Allah movement is in any way, shape, or form comparable to one of the most successful ethnic cleansers of our generation in modern society, you are a delusional little freak. You have no understanding. You have no concept of, like, what these things look like. You are comparing two children at kindergarten fighting one another to a serial killer rapist. You are not a serious person, okay? That's it. Don't make this idiotic both sides comparisons. Like, there is no both sides between a murder victim and a person who is whose entire family's been slaughtered and the guy who's doing the murder. Ridiculous. Do you know how much money the leaders of Hamas steal? Like, this is what I mean. People still try to do this dumb bullshit. Dog, the leaders of Hamas are dead. Israel killed them. Okay? What the are you talking about? How much money the leaders of Hamas steal? Both parties want the war to continue while the regular Palestinians suffer. Shut the up, okay? One, you have no evidence for this, okay? You just don't have any evidence for this. The only evidence you have, in air quotes, is whatever the Israeli state is churning out as propaganda. And two, even if it was real, what difference does it make? It's still a genocide, dumb. It's also hilarious to say, do you know how much money Hamas steals? Okay, do you know how much money Israel takes from us? Your tax dollars and my tax dollars? It's to the tune of billions. I would rather give that money directly to Hamas so they can at least fund some semblance of a civil governance program in the Gaza Strip than Israel so they can use it to melt Palestinian children every day. Shut the up. What money? What leaders? They're all dead. Oh my God. And even if it was real, even if it was real, even if this is like, oh, Hamas is, like, stealing all the aid or all the resources, like, okay, then stop the genocide and then we can deal with that. Okay? It's so strange that like, people still think this is a claim that holds any weight, especially when matched with the magnitude's worse violence of ethnic cleansing. You know, none of this makes sense. And yet people still do it, where people are like, well, Hamas is stealing money. What are they doing with the money? Where are they going with the money? They can't escape the Gaza Strip. What can they possibly do with this money? Is there a secret merchant in the tunnel systems that they can go to purchase weapons or something? Are they buying Labubus? Did Hamas buy the 24 karat gold Labubu? Is that what you think is going on? What could they be doing with the money? Every single thing in the Gaza Strip is destroyed. Yeah, what are you buying? What are you selling? That's what's going on. There's a Resident Evil merchant in the tunnel system, okay? And he's just like giving them weapons. Can you say we've laundered the Labubu in your Palestinian accent? No, I can't. All right, let's continue. Here.
This is nuts.
This is so crazy. We are so not qualified to do this.
No.
That's what's interesting about this. We're just not. We just should not be doing this.
Well, we're too far too gone.
Here we have the Prime Minister of Israel.
What? This is definitely going to be clipped out of context. I'm sure somebody already posted you saying give American tax dollars to Hamas. I hate weird people. No, I don't. That's not out of context. I'm saying I would rather have my tax dollars go to Hamas that ends up literally rebuilding the civil governance affairs of the Gaza Strip than to fund the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian population. What do you think humanitarian aid? How do you think humanitarian aid works? That's how it works. I would rather it go to UNRWA. I would rather it go to the Palestinian population. The Gaza Strip is still, at this stage, controlled by Hamas and its civil governance division. I don't care if people get mad at that. It's like whenever I say, it's like when I'm even comparable, okay, that Israel is magnitudes worse than Hamas ever could be, that Israel is a significantly more evil entity than Hamas ever could be. People go, oh, dude, that's going to hurt people's feelings if you say that. It's just the truth. Address the argument. Explain to me why I'm wrong.
Benjamin Netanyahu. He's about to walk into the podcast right now. This is probably one of the most, if not the most controversial podcast we
For sure the most
have
we've
ever done.
Yeah, 100%.
Maybe not the most controversial we'll ever do.
You're not the center of the world. I agree. I don't think so. I'm not the one who's centering myself in this. Chatters are, and I'm addressing their concerns.
Maybe not.
But
maybe
is, I mean, this issue is just like, and by the way, I want to say too, I'm not claiming to be an expert on this issue or anything like that. I've kind of just probably like a lot of you guys that, you know, you read stuff online. And I feel like on the internet now too, it's like, you don't even know what's real anymore. Like you read shit and it's like, you see a headline and it's like, is this true? Is this not true? So I see so much.
Imagine if the story was Jewish people stealing money to buy arms to resist the Reich. We'd call them heroes. I mean, there are stories like that. The Jewish partisans did that. They literally intercepted railroads and sabotaged supply lines. Of course they did. And they had every right to do so. And they are hailed as heroes in Israeli history, ironically enough. The only difference here is that the people that are doing it are brown and scary. Shut the fuck up, you ignorant piece of shit. How do you interview someone not knowing what they've done, especially when they're televised every single day? They misrepresented to you the intro yesterday. Anyway, yeah, this is like they're starting off talking about how ill-equipped they are to have this conversation. And then they have this demon sit down
to see this thing, right?
Yeah. Prime Minister Netanyahu with us.
He's like, hello, I'm here to have slam some brewskis, you know, bitches get money. Hello, Nelk boys. I'm here to talk to you about Israel and how we must defend Israel. I love doing upper deckies. My fellow Nelks.
Today we're here in the Blair House.
Yep.
Right? Is this the White House grounds?
Close.
Close.
It's the sort of the official guest house of the United States.
How have you seen like the White House and stuff? Like how has it evolved over the years, over the times of you visiting it?
I've met quite a few of the American presidents because I've been in office pretty long time.
Hasan, you're a terrorist, but at least you're good looking. Thank you for saying that, I guess. Like,
not because we don't have elections, but because I want to
I'm gonna terrorize your pussy.
I think there's never been a friend like Donald Trump in the White House for Israel. I think he's a remarkable leader. I think he's changing history. He said he'll make America great again. He's already done it. You know, America is widely admired now around the world. and especially after our joint operation against this regime that wanted to, chant
With this
death
bomb
to
ass
America,
dick.
death to Israel. Well, I think together we've shown the world a different face of America. Very powerful, very directed, very resolute.
You guys are very tight, right? Would you call it a bromance?
Well, you might. I mean, we've known each other several decades, and I really like him.
What do you like?
Yeah, this is bro. This is, oh God, this is so bad. It's just so bad. He's like, yeah, I love Donald Trump. We have such a good relationship. We also love slamming happy dads together. We love slamming happy dads together on the Nelk Boys podcast. I can't wait. I can't wait to do it together. I don't even know if I could watch this whole thing. Okay, I just like it's.
Most about him.
If you meet him close up, and Sarah and I have had this.
I've never seen you watch Benjamin Netanyahu speak for an extended period of time. You've never been able to do it. I can't do it because he's such a monstrous piece of shit. But then also on top of that, he is just so uncharismatic. He has no good qualities. He is basically America's fall guy here.
Opportunities many times, including last night in a great dinner we had at the White House. First of all, Donald Trump can be very funny.
Of course.
He can be very funny.
Especially off camera, right?
He can split you sort of sit there and you start guffawing because it's so funny. And also I'll tell you something else. That Sarah, who's a psychologist, and she, psychologists, psychologists.
Of course.
They look at people. They identify very quickly with that. You know what she said to me about Donald Trump? She said he's a good person. He has a good heart. He wants to do good. And that is something that I think that...
Yeah, this is him. Remember, he's playing to the audience, okay? He is hyping up his closeness to Donald Trump, a figure that the Nelk Boys audience obviously likes. Remember, Benjamin Netanyahu is a demon, but also he is a very successful propagandist. He's been the leader of Israel for decades at this point, okay? So understand something here. Like every single thing that he's saying and the very fact that he's doing this interview is calculated. And as I described to the Nelk Boys yesterday, the reason why he's doing this interview with the Nelk Boys when he won't do this interview with Haaretz or any number of different Israeli outlets, including Israeli outlets that are literally promotional to him, because Benjamin Netanyahu notoriously does not speak to Israeli outlets, okay? He barely does interviews with American outlets. So why is he offering an hour and 13 minutes to the Nelk Boys? This is a question everyone should be asking, okay? And it's precisely what I told the Nelk Boys, is because he knows that this is not going to be contentious. He knows that they're going to ask a couple questions and never push back with accurate information. That's the whole point. Now, of course, it's still a failure from the Israeli perspective, because I think these guys do not understand how Israel is viewed and how especially Benjamin Netanyahu is viewed, because Benjamin Netanyahu himself is not even liked by liberal Zionists at this point, okay? Everybody sees him as an off-ramp. Even if you want to launder the reputation of Israel, you still have to say, well, it's Bibi's war. It's Benjamin Netanyahu's war. It's Benjamin Netanyahu's doing. So, like, there are only a handful of people that actually like Satan incarnate here, okay? And that's it. So you are not going to get anyone. You're not going to win any favors here. You can say what you want about Netanyahu, but he's quite a savvy politician. He knows what you need to suck Trump's penis to get whatever he wants, and he's doing that here. I mean, I think this is more so... I think this is more so about... yeah. Oh, here's Benjamin Netanyahu's favorability on table 5e on page 12. Here, just so you understand how... dog shit, how underwater he is. Favorability of public figures. Benjamin Netanyahu. Do you have a favorable or unfavorable opinion? Okay. Benjamin Netanyahu's favorability, total favorability, is at 24%. His unfavorability is at 44%. Okay. 44% unfavorability. He is underwater. It's a net negative. And his favorability, when you look at men versus women, is women 50% unfavorable, men across the board 30% favorable. When you look at the races, 30% favorable by white people. White people are carrying Benjamin Netanyahu's favorability here. Hispanic people are at 18%. Black people are at 9%. And his unfavorability for white people is also at 44%, 42%, and 43%. Okay? So he is incredibly unpopular. He is such a repulsive figure. He is such a repulsive figure that when you associate with him, you don't actually end up doing propaganda for him. You can't flip these numbers. You can't flip these numbers in the eyes of Americans. And when you look at the younger population, especially the 18 to 29, which is like the Nelk demo, his unfavorability is at his highest, 52%. 52% between the 18 to 29 demo, and at 30 to 44, it's at 42%. So when you look at these numbers, it's just like there is very few people who see him as favorable, and most of them see him somewhat favorable anyway. 3% of the 18 to 29 demographic only sees him as very favorable, as opposed to 44% seeing him as very unfavorable. Okay? That's it. That's precisely the reason why when you look at this interview and then you look at the comments, everyone is going, I miss when YouTube used to show dislikes. Nelk 2015, funny prank channel. Nelk 2025, propaganda machine for governments. You guys didn't question him once. This is crazy. Israel are so desperate for positive PR, they sent their prime minister to podcast with a bunch of pranksters. Zero pushback. You literally let a war criminal talk freely. You think Content Brain podcasters would check these polls? No, but Content Brain podcasters are receptive, incredibly receptive to their audiences. Okay? Do you understand? They're incredibly receptive to feedback from their audiences. So they're not seeing those polls. They're seeing the comments. And that's precisely the reason why yesterday they turned around and were like interviewing anyone and everyone they possibly could on you know, what they did. And they were like looking for anyone to just basically be like, nah, it's cool that you guys did this. And they didn't get that. And then they wanted to do this whole like, well, we're trying to get both sides on this issue. We're trying to do both sides on this issue. There are no both sides of the genocide, but there is also no feasible way of even getting both sides on this issue. Who are you going to do? Who are you going to interview? A Palestinian child that is being malnourished, that is being starved to death by this guy that you interviewed? You can't do that. So it's just like a spectacular cup of epic proportions. And the reason why it's a spectacular cup of epic proportions is because you have to ask the question, like, who is this for? Like, no one wins in this, okay? No one wins in this process. The Nelk boys don't actually get any sort of positive clout out of this. They only get ridicule and negative associations. People in their audience are going to be like, oh, you are bought out by, like, the anti-Semitic people in the Nelk boys audience are going to be like, oh, you're bought out by Jewish money, blah, 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 all this shit. And the other people that are also anti-Israel for understandable reasons beyond the anti-Semitism are going to look at this and go, you've done propaganda for a genocidal welfare state that relies on American tax dollars. And you guys just like, you know, had this guy on and allowed him to yap. And I know they wanted Motaz. They reached out to me, or their producer reached out to me to link them up with Motaz. And I told them Motaz would never do that. I try to tell Steiny that as well. I'm working on trying to see if I can find someone that would actually go in front of this audience and talk to them and offer them the Palestinian position, the pro-Palestinian position. But it's very difficult. It's not helping these clowns, for the record. For those of you saying, stop helping these clowns, are you stupid? This is about trying to get in front of as large an audience as possible, a person who has, you know, mental clarity, a person who is convincing, okay? This is more so to inform an uninformed audience. I'm sorry, this is not about doing PR. You guys can see it that way if you want, but I don't give a shit, okay? Even if it is technically damage control or some shit like that, I have my purpose here is to try and get the truth in front of as many people as possible, okay? It is going to be virtually impossible for them to get anyone who is like Palestinian after they interviewed literal Adolf Hitler. That's just the situation at hand. Anyway,
you have to know him well to appreciate it. And the last thing I tell you about him, okay? I mean, I could tell you many things, but he cuts through the chase. You know, he cuts through the BS. I have to spell out what BS is. He cuts through the BS. He goes right to the point, to the heart of the matter. And sometimes he says things that get right to things that people don't want to really think through. And he cuts to the bone. And that is an amazing quality because it lets you focus on the things that are important. So it's been an incredible partnership, both personally, but also for our two nations.
Did you have any type of relationship with Biden?
Not the same. I've known Biden for, 40 years? Almost as long. Well, both of them. Over the decades, it was a different relationship. it was a friendship, but also it evolved into, how shall I say this, severe disagreements.
Like, what's severe disagreement? This is bullshit. Biden gave him everything he wanted and more. This is, once again, him trying to hit a partisan angle here to make it seem like there was any sort of daylight between the Biden administration and the Trump administration. Okay? The only reason why he's saying that is so that he can win favor in his mind off of the Nelk Boys audience by being like, oh yeah, we had severe disagreements. Really? Because it didn't bear itself out in the what was it? It was unlimited genocide then, and it's unlimited genocide now. Fantastic stuff from the Biden administration, by the way, throwing everything in the tank, including the election, losing the election to a goddamn monster, an idiotic, incompetent monster, as a matter of fact, who is accelerating American fascism in broad daylight so that they could continue Israel's genocide. Great stuff.
And with Donald Trump, we've had powerful agreements. And where there's no daylight between an American president and an Israeli prime minister, amazing things can happen. Like our common enemies who chant death to Israel, death to America, and want to develop atomic bombs and the means to deliver them to this city and to every part of America. All of a sudden, they're not so intimidating. All of a sudden,
Biden didn't let him bomb Iran. That training started under Biden. The training, the military campaign for bombing Iran, and the training by the U.S. Air Force to bomb Iranian nuclear sites, that mission that was conducted under Trump literally started under Biden. So, but of course, this is precisely the reason why Benjamin Netanyahu is never going to come to someone like myself, okay, and have a conversation like this with someone like myself, which was what the Nelk boys were asking as well to me yesterday. And I was like, there's obviously a difference between you and me in terms of like interviewing someone like Benjamin Netanyahu. There's a reason why he would never do this. There's a reason why he's doing the Nelk Boys podcast instead. Because when he says stuff like this, no one is going to call that into question.
Yeah, we can defeat them. All of a sudden, you can use these brave American pilots who come from around the world, drop it right over the bunker, and help us end the amazing feats of our soldiers and pilots. That's an amazing thing. It's good for America. It's good for the security of every single American.
How do you feel about the Americans' opinion on Israel right now?
Well, look, I think the broad segments of the American public support Israel, but I'm concerned that the young people in America, some of them are getting the wrong picture of Israel, vilification, demonization. You can feed them a lot of...
They're getting the wrong picture of Israel, which is why I'm here to address the right picture of Israel. And I'm doing a spectacularly bad job at it because everyone sees the one picture, and that is murdered, mutilated, starving children. That is the only picture. That's the only thing that is on people's minds. Israel's association with rebuilding, recrafting, and popularizing a previously like religious language like Hebrew, its nation-state project, its advancements in pharmaceuticals, all this stuff gone. It's done. It's done. You are a cartoonishly evil Nazi country that is doing a child holocaust in broad daylight, in real time. Of course it's going to breed enmity. Of course it's going to breed resentment. And there's no amount of podcast that you can go on that will change that reality. Okay? It's just not. It's not gonna change anything. And Nelk boys are doing sympathization for them, yet we infantilize them doing this. I'm not. And I don't think anyone here is either. I don't know why you're saying we infantilize them doing this. I think you have to match this desperate attempt from Israel with like the impact that it's having. And if the goal here from Benjamin Netanyahu is to try and win favors and curry favors in the Nelk boys crowd, because in his mind, he unironically thinks, I guess, or at least someone in his circle thinks that Nelk boys were directly responsible for Trump winning. Okay? Someone told him that the Nelk boys were the ticket to Trump's electoral victory. And this moron believed that. Okay? That's why he's doing this. And that moron is probably Dana White, for the record. It's probably Miriam Adelson and it's probably Dana White. Literally. These guys on the Republican side don't even know how they won the goddamn election. It's clear. Because of how you coddled them yesterday, you wouldn't be doing this for anyone else who platforms Sneeko, Tate, Trump, Netanyahu, etc. What are you talking about? Okay. What are you saying? I think a lot of you have a complete misunderstanding of coddling. Why aren't you hunting people I disagree with for sport? Yeah, like I don't think you know what that word is. I told them that I told the Nelk boys that Benjamin Netanyahu used them like a fleshlight, that they gave the equivalent interview of like CNN, and that they would be tried in Nuremberg under normal circumstances in a similar fashion to journalists that actually propagandized for the Nazi state, and that they had basically done the equivalent of an Adolf Hitler interview. What part of that is coddling? I don't understand. Which is ironic because there are some bad faith actors in here who are like, why didn't you just fly out to where they were and like beat them with your hands or something? So simultaneously, I look at TikTok and half the comments are like, Nick Fuentes was so based. Hasan could never actually pull off the incredible commentary that Nick Fuentes pulled off. And there are still dumps who are hyper woke in my goddamn community who think that like I wasn't aggressive enough in my commentary.
Lies. So the only way you can fight lies is with the truth. How do you fight lies? You tell the truth, and you have to tell it as often and as intensely as the lies that are leveled against you, and that requires an effort. It's like another battlefield, And I'm doing this podcast among other things to reach young people.
Of course.
You guys are pretty young. I mean,
30 years old.
30.
30.
That's young.
Yeah. What do you think the biggest misconceptions are about Israel?
Well, first of all, they don't know what kind of an open society it is, how pluralistic. I mean, we live in the heart of the Middle East, okay? Iran is not that far away. In Iran, they hang gays by cranes. In Israel, probably Tel Aviv is one of the, the most open, liberal-minded city on earth.
No. Don't hype that up too much. Remember, the Trump base is not that open to the gay stuff. It's not that woke. You know what I mean? It's not a good thing that Israel's woke like that. Anyway, yeah. Yeah, in Iran, they hang gays by cranes. In Israel, we kill gays by using American weapons on them. Okay?
Israel is a high.
We visited there, yeah.
No, it's completely different.
Our assistant's gay too. He had a good time.
Well, you can vouch.
Yeah, no, he had.
What's the difference between this and the stuff we have heard as a defense of Israel before? One line between all of them? No, of course not. There is no difference because there is no way to differentiate between Hasbara, because the more people are aware of Israeli violence against the Palestinians, the less avenues Israel has to propagandize. So all of the arguments basically become one. Israel's an apartheid state. Israel's an apartheid state committed to ethnic cleansing. Its societal underpinnings, its fundamentals are born out of this fascist ideology of Zionism, which is an ethno-religious supremacist ideology. It's a Jewish supremacist exterminationist ideology. Okay? It is no different than what the Nazis believed, but instead of the outgroup being Jews and socialists, communists, and the Roma population, and whoever was not a part of the in-group of the Ubermensch or the Volk, okay? In this circumstance, Jews are a part of the in-group, and the out-group is everyone else in the vicinity, okay? That's it. It's the same exact ideology with the victims being swapped out for someone else. But that is precisely the reason why this, like I said, is no different than any other interview that any other Israeli envoy has on any other mainstream outlet. Okay? And it's actually being directed towards a group of, like a demographic that is even more resentful and more repulsed by Israel. Okay? So it's a spectacular failure on every front. That's what I mean.
So, look at that. How about women? Okay. Women in Iran, they shoot the women. They shot this extraordinarily brave and beautiful woman, shot on the sidewalk because she showed too much hair. In Israel, women are, you know what women are.
They shot Masa Amini, I think. They can't even remember her name. Okay. How many Palestinian women have you shot? How many Palestinian journalists have you assassinated? They killed Shireen Abu Akleh, who's an American citizen, dude. They did that in 2021. And then they raided her funeral. Like, these guys have nothing. Israel has nothing. They can't be like, oh, Iran is so violent. Iran is so brutal. It's like, bro, you literally had a rape riot, a January 6th for rape, okay? It is a cartoonishly evil society by every metric. What are you talking about? What are you even talking about here? Oh, look at Iran. Don't look at us. Look at Iran. All of our enemies are so much worse. Okay? All of our enemies are so scary. They're so much worse. They're so barbaric. They're so backwards. It's like, dog, we're not funding the Iranian government. We're funding your government. Okay? We're funding you. You are getting unlimited ammunition to kill Americans. You're getting unlimited protection from the United States of America at the global stage to continue doing shit that Iran could never do. Iran would not be able to pull that off. I'm sorry. It's just the truth, okay? People talk a big game about Iran's domestic affairs or Iran's intervention in the region, and that is not an adequate substitute for the conversation that we're having about Israel's intervention, because Israel's intervention half the time is why Iran is also intervening as a retaliation. This is not a value judgment on Iran's intervention, mind you, okay? I'm not saying that at all, but there is no comparison. There is no comparison. It's always getting back to silly ass substitutes to be like, well, look at Iran. Iran is doing this. Iran is doing that. It's like, bro, you're Israel, okay? Let's talk about what Israel is doing.
Say what the difference is, okay? So I had this young woman officer in my military secretariat. You know, the prime minister has military secretariat, and usually has a general and it has staff assistants. One of the staff assistants was this young woman pilot, navigator, on leave from the Air Force to do this work in the prime minister's office. You know what she did now? She was flying over the skies of Tehran, you know, attacking this horrible regime that tyrannizes the women in Tehran. That's a difference. The women there get shot on the sidewalk, and an Israeli woman pilot helps up.
Yeah, they're stopping the Iranian women from being terrorized by the regime by doing what? Killing them with American bombs. Sick. We got woke girl boss pilots doing the bombing campaign that is woke to liberate the Iranian women from their horrible circumstances. Thank God.
Liberate Iran, quite the women of Iran. And boy, that's a big difference. And that's true of everything. It's true of nightlife. It's true of the startup nation, the incredible ingenuity and entrepreneurship, incredible freedom. Israel is a paragon of freedom in an area that doesn't exactly enjoy freedom. And to have young Americans march and support these mass rapists, these people who beheaded men, who burned.
Once again, mass rapists. I don't know if you're talking about Israel, because you should be talking about Israel, because Israel had a policy where they tried to prosecute at 6 of the concentration camp guards at Sidi Tayman prison, okay? It is a concentration camp where they would pack up Palestinians from the Gaza Strip and then ship them off into this concentration camp, okay? 6 of the concentration camp guards were caught on camera, on CCTV footage, raping the Palestinian prisoners to death. Okay? Raping them to death. The Israeli government knew that there was an ICC prosecution being conducted into war crimes. So they wanted to use the principle of complementarity to defend themselves as a shield, to be like, see, we're actually investigating ourselves and we won't find any wrongdoing, but we're investigating ourselves nonetheless. So you can't investigate us, because that's how international organs of justice work. International organs of justice can only investigate and prosecute you for war crimes if you are not sufficiently dealing with the war crimes that you are committing. So knowing that, they literally, knowing that there was a UN report coming out on sexual violence that the Israeli state was committing to, was committing against the Palestinians, that they tried to at least prosecute some of these rapists, okay? What happened? Israeli society got out and did a pro-rape riot, and they forcibly released all of the concentration camp guards that had done a rape. They literally had a pro-rape January 6th. They were armed and they forcibly released these concentration camp guards. There was an emergency session in the Israeli Knesset where one of Benjamin Netanyahu's own party members unironically said that their concentration camp guards had a right to rape Palestinians. They had a right to rape them. That's what he said. This is all on camera. It sounds made up because it's so insane. But it's not made on camera. Many people, obviously, are completely oblivious to this reality because Western media does not cover it. And the reason why Western media does not cover it is because if Western media did cover it, the Israeli approval ratings that are already incredibly low would be so goddamn low that people would be demanding military intervention. If your parents knew what you knew about what goes on in Israel, they would be demanding military intervention. They'd be like, we have to invade. We have to invade Israel with our military force to put an end to this madness. Okay? Western media understands this reality, which is why they literally outflank Israeli publications when it comes to covering all of the madness and all of the violence that unfolds in Israel. Okay? That is precisely the reason why, like Haaretz or even Ynet, which is a right-wing institution, it's a right-wing outlet, it's a right-wing Israeli newspaper, has better coverage on all of the affairs of the military and the misconduct in the military than the New York Times does. Because the New York Times has the New York Times understands its readership and does not want its readership to despise Israel. So it cannot accurately convey events that are unfolding in Israel. But I will go even further. Remember, this man in the middle right there is the primary rapist. And at first he went on television to talk about how he had a right to rape the Palestinian prisoners to death. Then he unmasked himself and became a television personality. That's right. The Israeli soldier who was caught raping Palestinians on camera is now being honored and celebrated like a celebrity star at shows in Israel. And if it were true, Israeli rabbi defends soldiers accused of raping Palestinian prisoner. A video shows a rabbi in Israel blessing a soldier accused of raping Palestinian detainee, defending his actions, even if the soldier is to be found guilty. I'm sorry, dog. You can't have your prime minister running around and being like, oh, these guys were fighting are rapists. They're rapist beheaders. Yeah, over a year after their arrest, 5 Israeli soldiers accused of beating and sexually abusing a Palestinian detainee at Sdei Teiman have yet to face trial. Now a military judge recommends mediation instead. The Israeli military has offered more severe penalties to Israeli Jewish soldiers in the military, dogs, on Saturday than rapists who raped Palestinian prisoners in a concentration camp on CCTV. Yes, because Jews are obviously not supposed to work on Saturday. It's Shabbos. So when the Israeli occupying force soldiers actually went to a kitchen and cooked up hot dogs, they got a more severe penalty than these rapists did. This is also precisely the reason why someone like Benjamin Netanyahu is never going to do an interview with someone like myself, obviously.
Babies alive. I'm talking about the Hamas monsters. Is that their ideal? They don't know nothing. I mean, they don't know what they're talking about. And I want to bring that truth to them. So Israel is a great free society and the best partner that America has anywhere on earth.
Great people there for sure. When we visited, everyone was so welcoming and people were inviting us over for dinner and stuff. But I see, like, that's the thing too. I'm not claiming to be an expert too, but I'll just read stuff on like X and like people will say like Israel's killing babies or like they're starving people.
That's completely false. In fact, the reason we have civilian casualties in Gaza is because Hamas were basically horrible murderers and killers, okay? Committed to our...
Oh my God. What a different opinion from Benjamin Netanyahu. Nelk boys don't even like actually call into question whether he's like murdering children, something that we know is happening without a sliver of doubt here, okay? That is 100% happening. We know it's happening. We see it happening every day. According to reports from the UN, Israel is killing a classroom full of children every single day. Israel has killed a classroom full of kids every single day since October 8th, 2023. Okay? Oh, well, I see comments on Twitter of people accusing Israel of like, slaughtering children. It's like, that's not comments on Twitter. It's just an accurate reflection of reality. But of course, he instantly turns around and says exactly what any Israeli official would say on any other mainstream media outlet. He turns around and says, oh, Hamas are using children as human shields. Bullshit. It's bullshit.
Destruction and your destruction. They say so openly. I mean, They say the big enemy, the real enemy, the great Satan is America. And Israel is the small Satan. But it's a small Satan that is standing in their way of conquering with other Iranian proxies, conquering the Middle East, and then we move on to you. So America is the great Satan, and America, needs to disappear. And we stand in their way. But one of the things you have to understand,
Hamas is a national liberation group. Okay, their goals are simply to end the Israeli occupation. Hamas has never committed an act of terror or military conquest outside of the occupied Palestinian territories. Okay? Never. They never have. Just so you understand. He doesn't even make an effort to lie. Like, he went in there knowing these. Exactly. He used them, as I said, and I didn't watch this interview, but I knew that this was going to happen. He used them as a. So what was the October attack then? October 7th? Did you not hear me say occupied Palestinian territory, like historic Palestinian territory? Wasn't that Hamas? I'm losing my mind. No, that wasn't just Hamas. That was the entirety of the Palestinian liberation groups, okay? It was the entire resistance front. And that is literally within the confines of historic Palestinian territory. What the f are you talking about? Do you think October 7 took place in, I don't know, Washington, D.C. or something? What are you talking about? It's the same thing with the Taliban. Not to defend the Taliban, but there were shouts of how America will be attacked if the Taliban came back into power. So far, nothing. These are groups that are interested in gaining sovereignty for themselves and for their people. Okay? Ultimately, it does not matter. Technically, it does with supporters. There is a difference between Al-Qaeda and ISIS, which are invested in conquest. Okay? They are invested in conquest. They are internationalists. They are what is known as like jihadist terrorists. When someone says like, oh, this person is a jihadi terrorist, like they're talking about Al-Qaeda. They're talking about ISIS. They're talking about these groups that operate internationally, these groups that have a larger conquest in mind. Okay, there are many different formations. There are many different formations of these groups, and there are different branches. Like in Syria, ISIS has the Al-Nusra Front, for example. Okay, and they get a tremendous amount of tremendous amount of funding from our ally, Saudi Arabia. They get training in our other allied state, Pakistan. Okay. Yes, ISIS and Al-Qaeda are trying to establish a global caliphate. There's a difference between an internationalist and a nationalist Islamist or even Salafist group. Yes, ISIS in Syria isn't al-Nusra. It's called the government there. Okay, that's a different point. Yes, you're not wrong. Jolani. These are different branches of the same grouping that have also engaged in infighting, but none of that really matters at this point. Okay, HTS